Whether you're a buyer or a seller, you'll want to watch today's video because we're talking about all the reasons why a real estate contract can be terminated. You might think that once the offer is accepted and the purchase contract is signed by both the buyer and the seller, buying a house is pretty much a done deal. That's not actually the case. Even though a real estate contract is a legally binding agreement, it can still be terminated until the closing documents are signed and the keys are handed over. Let's talk about 5 reasons why a real estate contract might be terminated before closing day. Keep in mind that each of these reasons are contingencies that may be in your purchase contract. So first, home inspection results. If the home inspector's report comes back with some not so good news, and the buyer and the seller will typically negotiate the repairs. But sometimes the buyer and seller can't come to an agreement. In this case, and if there's an inspection contingency in the contract, the deal can be terminated and the buyer retains their deposit. Next, home financing. If the buyer's financing falls through and there's a financing contingency, the contract can be called off. This can happen when a buyer gets pre-approved for a certain mortgage amount, but then their financial situation changes and they don't end up qualifying for the same amount. Buyers, this is why it is so important to get pre-approved and stay on top of your finances during the closing process. Third, title issues. During the closing process, the buyer will conduct a title search to make sure they can buy the home free and clear. If the home's title search comes back with a lien or an otherwise bad title, the buyer and seller will negotiate. Again, if they can't come to an agreement, the contract can be canceled. Then, appraisal findings. If the buyer is getting a mortgage, the lender will require that an appraisal is done. The appraisal tells the buyer and the seller the fair market value of the house. If it comes back lower than the mortgage amount, the lender will typically require a home's purchase price be lowered or the gap is made up. Once again, the buyer and seller will negotiate here and come to an agreement or not. Finally, if there's undisclosed property information that comes to light, the buyers can call off the contract because the home is different from what they contracted to purchase. This is why it's so important to be 100% upfront and transparent with buyers if you're the seller. Now remember, these all have to do with contingencies, and contingencies can be negotiated. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, your real estate agent will guide you through the purchase contract process and ensure you have the proper contingencies. They'll also negotiate if any of the above problems arise, so you can ensure you're making the best real estate decision for your future. Have any questions about the closing process? Just send me a DM.